Homicides are at an all-time high this year in Philadelphia, far surpassing the city's previous record in 1990. As of today, there have been 524 killings in 2021, a 13% jump from the same time last year, according to the city's police department. As we've seen in cities like New York, the spike in homicides has largely claimed black victims. Between January and November, the overwhelming majority of those killed in Philadelphia were black. Despite the latest crime statistics, the city's district attorney had this to say.
I think it's important as we report on what is a true crisis when it comes to gun violence in the United States and also in Philadelphia. I think it's important that we don't let this become mushy and bleed into the notion that there's some kind of a big spike in crime. There isn't. There is not a big spike in crime. That is not true. There is also not a big spike in violent crime. Neither one of these things is true.
The press conference ignited a fierce backlash, notably from the city's former mayor, who blasted Krasner as ignorant to the realities of crime that acutely torment black residents. Krasner portrays himself as the great white hope for Philadelphia's black and brown communities, but if he actually cared about us, he'd understand that the homicide crisis is what is plaguing us the most, he wrote in the Philadelphia Inquirer. Joining me now to discuss is former mayor of Philadelphia, Michael Nutter. Mr. Mayor, I just want to get a clear understanding. Are you kind of blasting him, and that's the only way to describe your editorial here, blasting him because of this particular phrase and a kind of a slip of a tongue? Because there's other parts of this op-ed where you seem to think, kind of attack him and his character and how he's positioning himself in the city.
Well, the op-ed that I wrote was certainly specifically responding to what I thought were tremendously ignorant and insensitive remarks. On that particular day, there were 521 homicide victims, and I think those comments were insulting to those families. As you pointed out in the graph, it's now 524. Again, a tragedy here in our city. But this is a culmination, Charles, of failed, in my opinion, failed policies. I'm not sure what his policy is. It is not clear in this city, other than a philosophy. It's not clear what the plan is from the district attorney. And as you well know, every part of the criminal justice system has a role to play. The DA is supposed to prosecute criminals, and certainly more directly, I would say at least prosecute violent criminals. The police department has their role, the courts have their role, the prisons have their role, and so everyone has a role to play. Bailiffs, making sure that people, even without bail, making sure that people are evaluated properly and to determine that they're going to come to court. This district attorney has significantly changed many of the previous policies that helped to lead to a significant reduction. My last 3 years in office as mayor of Philadelphia, we had 3 years in a row under 300, still too many deaths in our city, but it was the first time since the late 60s that we'd had less than 300 murders in Philadelphia 3 years in a row. We have more murders in Philadelphia than you do in New York City. I know you're in Atlanta, but for whatever reason, I always associate you with New York City. So clearly something is not working. And his remarks
let me ask you a question on the numbers, though. Mr. Mayor, I want to ask you a question on the numbers. It's kind of a parsing of terms here, but he was saying in that press conference, basically using all violent crimes, and there is a fact, as reported in the Philadelphia Inquirer, robberies are down 38.8%, rapes are down 11%, aggregated assaults are down 7.1%, household burglaries are up like 1%, but there are large categories of violent crimes that are going down. Do you credit him at all? Do you see how he could be threading that needle to say, understanding that murders, which is the most severe of all violent crimes, are up,
right,
there are other categories which are very large that are down?
Charles, I don't know about Atlanta or about New York. What people are paying attention to is literally bodies dropping on a regular basis. There's no need for this parsing. He's doing that for his own purposes. And I saw the clip. I had not actually seen that clip before, and he was quite expressive in saying, there is no violence problem in Philadelphia. This is the highest number of murders since we started counting them and keeping close track since 1960. What are you talking about? And armed robberies are up with a gun, 24%. So, we know for a fact, and it's been historical, that rape is most unreported of many of the crimes. And so this parsing, this threading of needles, there is a concern in this city. When you have a woman who's pregnant coming from her baby shower and is shot and killed, a woman walking down the street with her 4-year-old twins is shot and killed, with teenagers, the number of children that have been shot and some killed in this city. It is a stupid parsing. It is insensitive. It shows a privilege and a white wokeness to even say some nonsense like that. When on the street,
I want to ask you. I want to ask you about the.
They are concerned. There's serious concerns about public safety.
Right. But I want to ask you about that. I mean, you just said white wokeness, which you had in the piece. You said that he's an audacity and ignorance of white privilege. That he's the great white hope. He thinks he's himself as the great white hope of Philadelphia's black and brown community. It's just a lot of this kind of racial language around him in your piece, and you call him, say he has an anti-police narrative. There's a lot of young black people who also believe that the police go too far, who believe that there should be police reform, who believe that DAs should not go as far and as hard against black people as some DAs do. And in fact, the black police officers and first responders in the city of Philadelphia were people who endorsed Krasner. So I just wanted to try to get you to parse that out for us, because this, this doesn't, on the face of it, strike a lot of black people as, the white guy off the rails because he doesn't want to throw the book at all black people.
I'm not asking anybody to throw a book, all the books at black people. And there are serious systemic racial issues in the criminal justice system. What I am talking about is the death and destruction of the black community. You put the graph up, Charles, that showed the overwhelming negative impact of shootings and homicides on black people in Philadelphia, and is the case in many, many cities across the United States of America. What Larry Krasner is trying to do is give people a false choice of, we can either reform the police or we can have public safety, but somehow in the Krasner world, you can't have both. And that is a lie. That is a fraud on the citizens of this city. Certainly there are issues and challenges in the police department. It's not just, sometimes people say, oh, well, it's just a couple bad apples. No, there are some issues in our department and in other departments. And we sought to try to reform the department. And that's not a one and done thing. That's a continuous kind of effort. And so what Larry Krasner has done is tried to, and in the aftermath, certainly, of any number of horrific incidents, and especially, of course, last year, 2020, with the murder of George Floyd, other bad instances in various cities across the country, even in Philadelphia, and has sold people on this idea, I'm going to protect you from the police. It is not true that most black people are against the police department. What they're against is police brutality. And so if we're going to separate something out, let's talk about the men and women who serve our city, who risk their lives every day, who black people call on a daily basis when something goes down in the neighborhood. Who are they calling? 911. They want a professional to show up, treat them with dignity and respect, take care of the issue, and then let them go on about their business. And so, that's called reform. And there are any number of other things that can be done, but it's not a zero-sum game. If we're doing one, we can't do the other. That's a bunch of nonsense.
Former Philadelphia Mayor Michael Nutter, thank you so much, sir, for sparing time for us tonight. We appreciate it.